Hi, this is Mike with the Ski Legends, and I am here talking with Billy Kidd. However, we're going to start out talking about motorcycles for the Moto Legends. Billy, tell me about your background on motorcycles, which I had no idea.
Well, I grew up in Stowe, Vermont, and Vermont is a great place for motorcycles. And so I bought a motorcycle from a girl in Stowe named Pansy Prince. Gorgeous, gorgeous lady, part of the Prince spaghetti family.
Oh, okay.
And she loved Triumphs. But I was 14 or 15, and I bought a motorcycle in a bunch of different boxes and spent the next year putting it together with no instruction manual. So I got it together and then couldn't figure out the timing on it. In any case, I got it together and it was so much fun riding around the logging trails around Stowe and then the highways when I was working on I-70. So then when I came out to Colorado, I bought a Triumph. It was a 350.
Okay.
And that was not much fun. So I bought a 500, and then I had a friend of mine put a cam in it and soup it up a bit.
Okay.
Got hooked on it and put a huge sprocket on the back so that it wouldn't go that fast. It would only go
It would
about
climb
80
real
miles.
well, though.
It could climb a tree. It was so much fun. And then I bought a Honda NX 650.
Okay.
So I could ride from Steamboat down to Santa Fe where my kids were. And my friend had a Harley, and so we'd trade off on the road on the way down, going down through the mountains.
Sure.
And the Harley was no fun at all because, you know, you get over a little bit and now you get sparks coming
Yeah, you're
off.
scraping your foot pads and yeah.
Whereas my
your Honda.
My Honda had high pegs and it was really, really fun. So I'd get way ahead of him and then wait for him, and then we'd continue on. Anyway, I love motorcycles, but I've crashed a few times and decided I don't like going to the hospital. I've spent enough hospital time racing downhill, and decided if I was going to miss an Olympics, it was not going to be because I had a motorcycle crash.
Yeah.
So it could be because I was training for the Olympics or the World Championships in Portillo. And so in any case, I love motorcycles and downhill racing.
Right. And which is all speed events. Portillo, did you break a bone in Portillo?
Not just one, but it splintered and broke a lot of pieces, so I shattered it in downhill practice for the 1966 World Championships in Portillo. Used to go down to Portillo a lot. I love it down there. But broke my leg really badly and couldn't ski for a year. But I came back really slowly.
Yeah.
And came back for the '68 Olympics.
I think I remember seeing your name in Portillo down in the dungeon where they do the tuning.
Oh,
there's a wall with everybody's name on it.
Okay.
I mean, Keeley and everybody, and I think your name's on it. Portillo has a special place, I told you before, in my history too, in the Purcells.
Yes.
And hopefully the World Pro Ski Tour will be down there at some point. We're trying to.
Well, Bob Purcell owned Portillo.
Yeah.
In the early '60s.
Yeah.
And he was one of the sponsors of the U.S. ski team.
Okay.
Which contained Buddy Warner and Billy Merolt and Jimmy Huga and a bunch of us from CU. But the Purcell family with Henry, that you probably knew.
Yeah.
And they were just great sponsors of the U.S. ski team. Give a lot of us young racers a chance to travel around and compete.
Yeah. Yeah, Portillo's spectacular. Do you get down there much anymore?
No, you know, I used to go down a lot to either race or train or test equipment or whatever. But my teammate Moose Barrows, I think we might have met at the Moose Barrows
We did.
celebration of life.
And that was a spectacular event. It's like everybody in Steamboat showed up. There were ski racers from all over the world that showed up. I think, didn't his plane fly over at some point?
One of his. He owned a lot of planes.
Okay.
Because Moose's dad is the reason that Moose grew up in Steamboat.
Okay.
He was a top airplane mechanic, and he was driving through Steamboat, had a flat tire, and so they spent the rest of their lives in Steamboat.
Right.
So Moose moved there when he was like 2 years old.
Right.
And then became one of skiing's legends, partly because he was really good, not only in downhill racing, but on the pro circuit.
Right.
And became one of the best known ski racers in America because the opening of Wide World of Sports showed Franz Klammer, the guy in the yellow suit,
Right.
as Jim McKay said, "Oh, sports is the thrill of victory." That's Franz Klammer in the yellow suit.
Okay.
And the agony of defeat. And that's Moose in the middle of his downhill run,
I remember
1968,
that. Yeah.
Grenoble, when he almost beat Jean-Claude Keely in the downhill, but he took too many chances. One of them was about halfway down, hit a bump about 60 miles an hour, threw him up in the air, and he did a 1 3/4 back flip with a 1 3/4 twist, splat right to the hospital.
Yeah.
But that was the agony of defeat that
Right.
made Moose so famous in skiing.
Yeah. Yeah. I never met Moose, but just hearing the people that talked about him and everything around town, he seemed like a great guy. He really.
Outstanding guy. He and I would get together because he lived down the road in Steamboat. And we both had ranches on this road that is on the way from Steamboat to the Vail Valley. in
Right,
a
to
little
Oak Creek.
shortcut.
Oak
Right.
Creek. I went by there last week, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And I looked down and I went, "Oh, there's Moose's ranch."
That's right. Well, just before Moose's Ranch, a few miles, is the north shore of Stagecoach Lake, and
Okay.
that's the Billy Kidd Ranch.
Okay.
And so Moose and I were not born in ranching country,
Right.
but fell in love with it, and we both had ranches. Well, if you can grow up in a place like Steamboat, Moose from about age 2, me from about age, I don't know what, 30s or 40s, when I got to Steamboat in 1970, found out that it was really a cowboy town,
Yeah.
a real authentic cowboy town,
Yeah.
with authentic cowboys like Buddy Warner
Yeah.
and a lot of the lift operators and cooks and people that worked in Steamboat who would take time off from ranching in the winter and work at the Steamboat ski area.
Yeah. I never realized that, but that makes so much sense. And all the way up to Craig and Hayden. I mean, there's ranches all the way through there. One of my favorite areas in Colorado is Dinosaur National Monument, in that part of the country.
Sure.
It's just unbelievable. Let's talk a little bit about the World Pro Ski Tour, but what we're going to do is take a break here for a second, and we're going to come back and talk about you and the World Pro Ski Tour.